Hi guys, welcome back to the Hugh Jeffreys video, and in this video I'm going to be talking how I was scammed with this parts lot. I paid a total of $120 for the lot, and it was advertised as containing a mix of iPhone 7, SE, 4, 5, 5C, 6S, an Oppo smartphone, and an iPad Air. The seller also stated in the description that what you see is what you get. Well, we're going to see about that one. Upon the parcel arriving, I noticed that it was way too small to contain an iPad Air. Checking it by placing my iPad on top of it, you can tell that I'm clearly in for some kind of surprise. Shortly after I purchased the item, I did message the seller to see if the iPhone 7 came with its matching paired home button, but received no response. That left me feeling very skeptical on what I was actually going to receive with this parts lot, so let's open it up and see what I actually got sent. You can immediately see how poorly this was packaged, but anyway, taking a look, we have an iPhone SE with some various parts and logic board in there, an iPhone 5C housing, and what looks to be like an iPhone 5 battery. We've got an iPhone 7 housing, which now doesn't contain any of the parts like the logic board, battery, or dock connector that it did before, so we'll have to have a look for those. Got another SE here, looks to be water damaged. We've got an iPhone 7 screen, which is missing some cables and its frame. I've got another 5C housing, this time it is green. Underneath that there is an iPhone 5 housing which looks to be in very rough condition and abused. We've got an Yes Optus SIM card. I've got an iPhone 4 with no display or back. Another iPhone 7 housing with no logic board installed. An iPhone 5 housing, a clip for the OtterBox case, a battery which could be for the iPhone 7, a iPhone 4S logic board that says VG, which I'm going to guess is very good. That seems to be water damaged. Also some Oppo smartphone, no idea on the generation of that. And in this bag, what looks to be some miscellaneous parts, an iPhone 7 logic board and Taptic engine in there as well. Taking a look at everything I got, I've laid it out on the table roughly so we can go through this and see everything that I got and things that I didn't actually get that were advertised. There was a bag containing a lot of smaller parts like a SIM tray and things, and some speakers and an earpiece for an iPhone 7. There is also some broken parts in there like the Taptic engine and just some random cables that have been snapped off, and even a corner of an iPhone logic board. There's also an iPhone 7 screen in here, and you can see from the listing photos that it now doesn't contain the other part that actually comes off of the other cable, as well as the metal backing plate. So that's been taken off since the listing was posted. The logic board was also removed from the iPhone 7 along with its battery and dock connector, so I scoured through the parts that I received to try and find the parts for this iPhone 7. I was happy though that I actually got the logic board, as I was told that all this phone needed was a display. So hooking it up here, I'm going to test it out and see if I can get any sort of life out of it. You can see that I didn't find the dock connector or battery which was shown in the listing photos, so it was not looking good at this point, and I did notice that one of the standoffs is snapped off, the camera lens is cracked, and overall this is not looking good. I did find that battery, but it turns out it's not for an iPhone 7, so that didn't work, and I actually had to order another battery. You can see here I did get the earpiece and a Taptic engine which would work, but for the rest of the parts, they're not there. I did have a test iPhone 7 display, and I did order an iPhone 7 battery to test out this device to see if it actually indeed just needed a display. Connecting up this screen and battery and pressing the power button, we got nothing, absolutely nothing, no signs of life whatsoever. Obviously I can't test if it connects to iTunes or vibrates or anything because it doesn't have a dock connector. I did notice that one of the shields is loose and floating around too, so that phone is non-functional. Next up, we have an iPhone SE which has arrived with a completely snapped logic board. This thing has been snapped clean in two, and I believe this phone was actually shown in the bottom left corner of the listing photos, and you can tell there that it does not have a snapped logic board, so it's clear that the seller has tried to remove the logic board for some reason and hasn't removed the SIM tray and has brute forced it up, and it's snapped the logic board in too. So this phone may have been able to be revived with a screen and battery like he said, but he's destroyed that, so that phone will never work again. I also found this logic board, which is missing the top left portion of the logic board, and it actually does boot but doesn't display anything on the display, so that's also toast. The two iPhone 5C housings, they're relatively scratched, also some random broken cables and things inside them, but I guess these were really the only things that were advertised and actually arrived as I had expected them to. The iPhone 5 housings had clearly been abused to a point where they've definitely been hit with a hammer or something. Here we have an Oppo smartphone, unsure of the model or anything, but it does actually power on. The screen is dead, but if I wanted to, that phone could be revived. There's also this iPhone 4S logic board, which shows signs of water damage, but I went ahead and connected up an LCD battery and dock connector, but it doesn't boot, it just stays in a permanent boot loop, as it's not detecting the battery, even with a fully charged battery attached to it, and it also won't power up off an iPad charger, so there's definitely something wrong with that logic board. Moving along, we have an iPhone 4, which is extremely out of shape and warped. I've never seen an iPhone 4 in such poor condition, and I've seen some in pretty rough shape. I'm unsure on how somebody could possibly bend an iPhone 4, because the frames on these things are very strong compared to a lot of newer phones. It still has the original battery connection still attached, although the battery has been violently ripped out of the device, and the display is no longer attached, although the cables for it are still plugged in. So I went and removed those, connected up a fresh display, a battery, plugged in the dock connector, and received nothing on the display, but connecting up a charger, I was actually receiving charging sounds, and that was because it wasn't detecting the display, but it was showing up in iTunes. Moving along, we have another iPhone SE. This one doesn't have a snap logic board, but does show signs of water damage. The housing is completely destroyed with shattered glass on the top and bottom and various dents and scratches. I removed the logic board, and I'm going to try and treat this with some cleaning alcohol to hopefully revive it back into functional condition. Although it does look like someone's already attempted this, so I don't have very high hopes. I did just get a clear container, dumped some alcohol, gave it a scrub and let it dry, but the phone did not boot up, so there was no functioning SE there. Taking a look at the original item listing, now that you guys have an idea of what I actually received, we can take a look at the things that didn't quite add up. Some of this arrived as advertised, like the 5C housings. The 5 housing, well, I couldn't judge the condition of that, that's okay. The iPhone 4 there looks okay. The water damaged SE, that looks okay as well. But the things that I didn't get or were damaged when they arrived was the iPhone SE up in the top there, and you can see it has a display. I didn't receive an SE with a display, so I don't know what happened there. We've got the 7, that didn't arrive with a dock connector or a battery as advertised, and didn't even work, as I was told that all it needed was a display. Down the bottom left corner, we have an SE with no snapped logic board, which probably is the phone that I would have been able to get fixed, but obviously the kid snapped the logic board and now it doesn't work. And the iPhone 7 screen, while obviously was destroyed, arrived even more destroyed with ripped connectors and a missing backing plate. Very strange. I also didn't get any 6S parts, which was advertised as well. For anyone wondering about the water damaged iPhone 5 logic board, I actually revived it, and guess what? It was on the hello screen and it was iCloud locked. So I messaged the guy, right, and I was like, hey, I didn't receive half of the parts, what's going on? And this is what he sent me. He basically said he misplaced them and he would send them to me as soon as the money clears into his account. And that right there is a classic trick to try and get away with scamming someone. Of course, I wasn't going to fall for that, so I opened up an eBay case and had to send the items back. In a few days, I will get a full refund for that as soon as the tracking says that it has been delivered. And that is what's really nice about a buyer protection system on many websites these days. It avoids people from being able to scam and you obviously being scammed. So I will get my money back for this. It was a bit of mucking around, of course, because I was hoping to make a really cool video out of of this, as I do like buying parts lots to try and get as many of the phones in there working as possible. But of course, this video didn't go to plan, but I thought I'd make the video anyway to show you my experiences with being scammed myself. And on that note, this has been a Hugh Jeffreys video. If you like what you saw, hit that subscribe button and consider checking out the Tech Lot playlist for more videos just like this one. Also, make sure to follow me on my social media, link for which is down in the description. That's all for this video, and I'll catch you guys next time.